I'm Debra Borchardt, and this is your midday market update. Well, the S&P 500 is now up about 60 points in the midday. We started out in the down zone, but we turned that thing around. S&P 500 is also up, and the NASDAQ is down, but just a tiny bit. We've gotten some economic data today. Import-export prices up a little bit, industrial production down. So why is the market up? Well, a couple of reasons why. One, it's low volume, so we're a little volatile. We're going into a three-day weekend. But Peter Cardillo is here to join me, and he is the chief market strategist over at Rockwell. So let's talk about these economic numbers. You know, a lot of blame put on the weather. I got to say, I kind of agree with that weather excuse this time.
Absolutely. And, you know, if you lived in the Midwest, obviously, you can really blame the weather. And even here in the Northeast, I mean, there's no question about it. And, you know, we saw that in most of all the numbers so far have all been, have all been negatively impacted because of weather factors, and the most important ones obviously were retail sales. We saw that, but yet, you know, if you looked at today's consumer sentiment report, you see it was unchanged. So I think everyone really realizes it's not a real downturn in economic activity. It's a temporary factor due to the weather factors, and I think once we get into the springtime, you know, hopefully very soon, things will pick up again, and I'm very confident that, you know, this consumer's sentiment report indicates that we'll probably see consumer spending continuing to do well, and that's, you know, a basic ingredient for economic activity to improve. And so, yes, it's, I think, all weather related.
You know, another thing, usually when we see these kinds of weather situations, as you mentioned in the Midwest, they have had Arctic temperatures for weeks on end. My in-laws have not been above zero for weeks. Energy, you know, normally when this happens, we see energy prices spike for increased demand, but we really haven't seen that this time around.
That's right. You know, and if you look at the price of crude, it's been basically hanging around $100 here. Brent certainly hasn't moved very far. In fact, if you look between the disparity between Brent and crude oil, you see that the spread has narrowed significantly. And the reason for that is, while there is demand for oil, there's certainly enough of supplies. Now look at what happened with today's import prices. Up a bit, you know, but if you look at the petroleum index, they were actually down 0.3%. So inflation is certainly not a problem. And the fact that, you know, the U.S. is producing and becoming actually a net exporter of oil, I think is one of the reasons why we have not seen crude prices respond to this cold weather. In normal times, you know, you would see a real spike up in crude prices. We haven't seen that. We're seeing a price level that's responding to the global demand and certainly to the fact that there's ample amounts of supplies out there.
All right, well, there you have it. We do have weather issues and weather blame going around, but everybody seems to say, you know what, I kind of agree with you this time. It is the weather. That's Peter Cardillo from Rockwell, and I'm Debra Borchardt with TheStreet.